What are the steps required in promoting a song that gets 1 million streams? This is a big question I get, and I wanted to break down the step-by-step process I use with artists I work with to really push things forward as much as we can. This isn't going to guarantee you 1 million streams, but it is going to be how I see the most effective people in the biz rolling out singles for DIY level artists in 2025 going into 2026. Obviously, the rules are different with the biggest people. We're not going to worry about that, okay? If we start worrying about that, we start driving ourselves crazy. Anyway, there's a few core steps. We're going to break through the pre-release process, actual release date, what we're doing post-release, and then finally we're going to talk about how to run it back. The first thing you want to start thinking about, probably a few months before the song actually comes out, is what is the content you're creating around the song. Now, you don't have to create all your content around it initially, but you do need to go, hey, let me make a music video, let me get the first 5 to 10 reels shot that are going to help capture the vibes of the song. And now, these don't need to be super fancy, and we'll talk more about content strategy later, but start just by going, hey, can we get vertical video content out of the music video we're creating, just so that there's something not just to post on release day, but on the days after that, and to use for ads, which we're going to be getting into. And the real key with all of this stuff is to start by going, hey, okay, what is a cheap, minimum viable way to do this, right? So with a music video, and this is a great starting point for anyone trying to figure out their content, what I always suggest is film a live show, maybe get some behind the scenes, backstage, B-roll type footage, and then chop that up, turn it into a music video, right? Or if you have a type of content that does well for you on social media, make an extended version of that. Like if you do lip sync videos in the woods and they always do well, then just make the entire video a lip sync video in the woods, right? It doesn't have to be this crazy expensive thing. It can be pretty stripped back. You'd be surprised how many of your favorite artists are doing videos on the cheap this way. But also always give yourself more time than you think you need to create a good music video, because these do take time. There are added steps. I don't know if you've ever edited video properly on your own. I'm learning as I run this YouTube channel, and it is hard, man. So start early on that stuff, Make sure that there is good content for you to post and showcase to people well before the song is even out. The next thing you want to think about 4 to 6 weeks out from your song dropping is your Spotify editorial pitch, where you pitch to Spotify editorial playlists. This isn't user-curated playlists or something. This is saying, hey, how do we get on the editorials? And the key here in your pitch is, A, make sure you're listing other small playlists that you would like to be on. Don't ask to get on Rap Caviar. Do some research and find smaller playlists like, nighttime rap or something that you might fit on, and build from there. A really easy way to do this is to go onto the Spotify page of an artist you love on desktop and scroll down to the Discovered On section, and you will see a bunch of playlists there discovered on, and then you can see the little Spotify logo, and you can see, this playlist is built by Spotify, and guess what? Now you found a relevant playlist to pitch yourself to, especially if it looks smaller, if it has some smaller artists who seem about your size. Then you want to list those playlists and say, hey, this song would be a perfect fit for this, this, and this in your playlist pitch, because you want to make it easy for the people at Spotify to kind of read and understand what you're doing, right? It doesn't need to be fancy, this pitch. It just needs to be very clear. You have to remember, people are speed reading these, and they're first being read through by AI to figure out which ones are even legit or not. And that's one of the big things they're looking for. Other stuff they're looking for, outline how you're promoting the song. If you're running ads behind it, if you're playing a show behind it, if you're, going on tour, what your content strategy is, if you're working with a PR company, anything you're doing to help promote this song, you want to make sure that you're highlighting it in there. And finally, you really want to be highlighting the vibes of the song. You want to be highlighting hey, this is a happy, upbeat song, and that makes it really fun. That's part of why it's a fit on the playlist you suggested. This is a breakup song. That's why it's a fit on these sorts of playlists, whatever. Highlight that vibe. Again, make it easy for the Spotify editorial curators to understand, oh, hey, this is what makes sense. This is what doesn't make sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, and also realize that the Spotify editorial pitch is a lottery ticket, right? You can't really pitch to Spotify on your first song ever. And later on, when you can pitch, there's no guarantee this is happening, okay? Even when I have established artists who I pitch to Spotify, it doesn't always happen. That's fine. They have very limited slots for independent artists. It is what it is, but it's a free lottery ticket that you should take every time, because if it does hit and you do get someone's attention, holy crap, really good things can come out of that. Tied into the whole Spotify world is going to be pre-saves. Are they even worth it? Not really, in my opinion. So there's a few options, right? So like a company like Smart Noise offers a lifetime pre-save, which actually is kind of cool, where essentially what they're doing is capturing fan email addresses, and then they're pre-saving all future singles you have from someone who pre-saves your song. That being said, if you don't have a huge fan base, pre-saves don't really work. But even if you have a bigger fan base, pre-saves kind of hard to pull off in my experience, largely because most fans don't know what pre-saves are. Most people aren't really saving songs on Spotify. I don't know if you save songs on Spotify. I definitely don't. It can work for some artists sometimes, but it's tricky because you're trying to get people in action, to do an action, but first you need to educate them on what that action even means. There's a reason a lot of bigger artists have kind of shifted away from that pre-save model. What does work, though, is Spotify has that really cool countdown tool where you're counting down towards an album, and that can work as you get kind of towards album world. Just one thought, and you can set that up with your distributor and within your Spotify for Artists fairly easily. But don't worry too much about pre-saves. I see people really breaking their backs over this. It's not the game changer some people like to claim it is, in my experience. Maybe I'm wrong. Now, there's one more big thing you want to do before you get towards dropping your single, which is booking your single release show. And you ideally want to book this a week or two after you're planning on the single dropping, purely because you want people to kind of already know the song. But it's a really good way to get, especially your local audience, reinvigorated about your single and excited again that, oh, there's something cool happening here and we should go dig into this. And your fans will kind of know the words already and know the vibe and be excited for it because they've already heard it. Right? And there's a reason you see bigger acts will literally tie tour announcements in with single drops, because a single is exciting. It gets people talking, right? People get excited about artists who are consistently doing interesting, exciting things. So with your single drop, use that as a way to help promote your music in the future, right? So here you're going to have your single release show coming a little bit after that single releases, so that you can take advantage of the momentum from the single to play a banger show. And ideally, yeah, you are going to need to plan this out pretty far in advance. Like, I am generally looking at artist booking shows 3 to 6 months out a lot of the time. So you do kind of need to game it. That being said, do not rush your single release because you happen to have a show coming up, because that'll make you cut corners on all the other stuff, like the content, the playlist pitching, etc. And that'll make you fall on your face a lot more often than you think. And by the way, when you announce that show, because you probably have to announce it before the single drops, if it's going to happen a week or two after the single, you don't have to say it's a single release show, but you can just surprise people with that and then use that as extra fuel to make that show do even better. Otherwise, in that week or two build up to the single, you don't want to create too much content promoting your song, right? That tends to be weird. Essentially, if you're creating a bunch of content promoting a song that isn't out, you're marketing something people can't consume, so they're going to forget about that thing you were doing. I know this strategy works for some people sometimes, but generally not in my experience. Generally, you want to take all that energy of creating content and put it after the single comes out, right? Or prepping stuff in advance for after the single comes out. What you want to do is you only want to run like maybe 1 or 2 teaser posts around your single. And that could just be snippets of the music video that cut and says, Friday, or something like that, or a snippet that says like 2 days from now. But also, just real quick on that note, Fridays are kind of a weird and not ideal day to release singles on, because so many other people are releasing on Fridays, because it's like the big release day, especially for bigger artists trying to chart on Billboard and stuff. Don't do that. You're much better off dropping like Tuesday through Thursday, where there's significantly less competition. Mondays are busy and hectic for everyone. We all go back to our jobs. Saturdays and Sundays do not work, okay? People are not really consuming new music on the weekend. They have other stuff going on. They're with their friends, their families, their girlfriends, whatever. Keep all those things in mind. Tease a single 1 or 2 times just to let your core fan base know, hey, I have something new coming, but don't go too crazy beyond that. Now we got to release day. What do we want to do? Well, the big thing is drop a piece of vertical video content showcasing the hook of your song, right? Maybe this is a music video snippet. Maybe this is a really cool lip sync video. I don't know. There's lots of things that release day piece of content can be. If you want to understand what works best in your genre, go study other artists in your genre. See what they posted on their release day, but it's generally not a static image. That doesn't really work that well. What works is some sort of video. That's always going to get more engagement. That's what Instagram's trying to push for. So that's the big thing. And you maybe want to post that around 10 a.m. on single release day. Then later in the day, you want to do a live stream. And maybe you announce what time that is in your single release post. Maybe you make a story announcing what time it is. But you're going to do a live stream. And on that live stream, you're just going to talk about your single. You're going to have some points prepared to kind of talk about it. But mostly what you want to do is answer viewer questions, right? You want to make people feel like, hey, you're involved. You're a part of this thing with me. Let's talk. Let's learn. Let's get behind the scenes and see what people want to know. You can also use this time to hype up your single release show, right? These are all really crucial things to do to kind of get that core fan base really excited, but also the reel is the thing that showcases like, hey, here is what you will be experiencing. And that reel should capture the vibes and the emotions of the song, because fundamentally, what is music but a consequence-free emotion-altering drug? Highlight that with your content on release day to get people talking. There's 2 other promotional pieces you want to think about doing on your single release day. You want to hit your email list. You want to hit if you have Bandcamp, your Bandcamp community. You want to hit your YouTube community page. If you have that set up, you want to hit your Bands in Town list, because Bands in Town gives you 10,000 free emails every month. So if you're not taking advantage of that to promote a single, you're messing up, because those are people who are actively excited to see you go play live. Sounds like we should reach out to them, right? So make sure you're connected with all those audiences, but also make sure that you're reaching out to, fans and people you're directly connected with. Don't spam a bunch of randoms. Don't spam people just because they follow you. But if you've been talking to someone consistently, or other artists in your scene who you are actively friends with, then you're allowed to send them your song, and that's cool, with a little note. The more personalized, the better, right? Again, you don't want to spam people. You don't want to hit up randoms. But if it's like someone who's like, hey, show me your music when it's out, this is the time to be like, yo, it's out. And you don't have to feel bad about that, because it's your release day. It's your big day that you've been working towards with all this content we've been talking about over the past couple minutes of this video, right? The other thing to think about is, hey, maybe it's worth sitting down and putting out some sort of exclusive merch tied into that single. You have your single art, now you have a shirt with that single art, for example, whatever that might be. Or maybe you have 2 pieces of merch. Maybe there's a cassette of just the single, or a pin, or whatever. But having something people can actively buy to help show support around when the single drops is cool, because again, when you do an exciting thing, more people are going to talk about it. People are much more likely to take action and support you, especially if they like the song. That's really good. But also, I think it's really important to kind of be like, this is the moment I have the most eyeballs on me, so let's maximize that with something that'll actually generate profit more quickly, which is to say, shirts, merch, whatever. The final thing to think about on release day is ads, right? Ideally, you want your ad campaign to launch on your release day. That's going to help maximize it, because Spotify popularity score is really dictated by the amount of streams you get within a 28-day window. So, obviously, you're getting a bunch more streams on release day because people are excited. So if you can amplify that within that 28-day window, that's going to grow your Spotify popularity score, which in turn will mean you get more algorithmic plays, et cetera, et cetera. All the other streaming services algorithms basically work the same way from what we can tell, but also all the other streaming services aren't really a significant enough part of the pie to be a huge thing to worry about. Just saying. I'll probably get in trouble with someone for that. But, okay, so this is when you want to launch your ads. And this is why you prepared that content before the release, those 5 reels I was mentioning, right? Not just so that you can post them in the following days, but so that on release day you can be like, okay, we're going to run Spotify, or we're going to run meta ads as conversion ads, driving people over to Spotify. I have a video talking about exactly how to do this with ads coming. I need to learn how to shoot that within OBS. For now, feel free to check out my friend Andrew Southworth's videos over on YouTube. His channel is incredibly helpful teaching you how to run ads. It's how I learned how to run ads, and I run a pretty big ad agency because of it. But think about launching ads on release day. Think about having like at least a $10 a day budget for a month. You can always hire someone like me to help you do that because the back end is pretty tricky to navigate. But ads are really helpful to kind of amplify that release day push. It's probably, if you're thinking about paid promotion, it's probably your best path compared to almost anything else, purely because you can get more trackable results out of it, right? Whereas I think other sorts of paid promotion tend not to give you that kind of tracking, and I think they come further down the line, especially more once people start to really care about what you're doing. I think doing a press release on song release day isn't going to really grow your streams unless you already have an active existing fan base. Post-release, the most important thing you can do is just drop a ton of vertical video content showcasing your song. And there's a bunch of ways to do this, right? But when you look at like big artists, they're dropping dozens, if not hundreds of pieces of content around an individual song. Now, a lot of those people are flooding the zone with their sound using tools like Cashy to create like AI content that just has their sound out there and they're pushing it that way. But there's also people, who are actively sitting down and going like, okay, I'm going to shoot a bunch of lip sync videos. An easy way to kind of scale the lip sync video game, just as a tip, is let's say you have, a location you'd like to shoot in, find 3 other locations that are just different angles of that, different sides of a cool room, for example, different parts of the woods you like to shoot in, whatever. And then in every part of the woods or every part of that room, shoot yourself performing 3 separate hooks, so that now, just with a little bit of walking around and repositioning, you've generated a dozen pieces of content with just 4 relocations, right? These sorts of things happen. You'll even see people whose content creation rooms are literally just like 4 totally different looking walls, so that artists can just pose in front of one, pose in front of the other, pose in front of the third, showcase all their hooks, make sure those hooks and the video content itself helps highlight the emotions behind the song, and then you're good to go, right? Other really easy ways to do this are get a bunch of live footage of you performing that song, maybe at your single release show. More on that later, and doing stuff like that, or B-roll of you in the studio and then just cutting that up in a way that looks cool. You don't need to do like a studio breakdown, especially if you're not known. I don't really think people pay much attention to those. And it's also not really highlighting the core product, right? In most genres, for most artists, people are not following you for studio tips, right? They're following you for how the song makes them feel. What is the benefit to them, right? Most people do not benefit from knowing how you tuned your drums. They benefit from going, oh, this song is really beautiful and powerful and reminds me of the glory of high school. I don't know, whatever it might be for you. As you're rolling out all of this content, I'd really encourage you to hit your email list like once a week for the month after release, just being like, hey, this song is out. And each time, maybe hitting a different story point to it, maybe something about the recording, something about what the song means to you, something about fan reactions, all that stuff. And also making sure that those email blasts aren't just to your list, but also again to the Bands in Town emails, to your Bandcamp community, all that good stuff. While you're doing that, you want to be making sure you're sharing every fan reaction. People will share it to stories and tag you. Also on your notifications, you can see people who mention you in your stories. Make sure you're highlighting that. Go from there. And then the other piece is like once a week or so, maybe once every 2 weeks, you want to post about the merch you have coming in, because that again is helpful to generating income. And when you have new music out, that is when the energy around you is at a fever pitch. People are talking about you actively. So you've got to make sure that you're taking advantage of that and being like, yo, you like this song, people are talking about it, buy a shirt, because that's going to help pay us a lot more than the streams will. So essentially you're leveraging the attention for sales. And then finally, you play the single release show. You have a special moment where you're like, hey, this is the live debut of our new song. And people start talking about it and they get excited and it gets more people out to the show, right? This is just part of the game. Again, leveraging attention for ticket sales in this case. It all works out in the end. And then, that's it. That's how you drive that single. You create all the content, you do the show, you do the ads if you want. You're hitting your email list, you're directly engaging with people and pushing from there. If you want to get more juice out of that single, think about releasing an alternate version a few weeks down the line, a few months down the line, really, where maybe you have a vocalist from a similar project showing up and helping do a verse and chorus on a remix. Now you have a collab version of the single, or you release an acoustic version, or you do some other weird remix, sped up, slowed down versions. Get a lot of hate sometimes from angry people on the internet, but it works really well. Stuff like that, because releasing alternate versions gives people a new way to kind of engage with what you've done. Like, this has been a big thing in electronic music for years. People will just drop the remix record of like all their friends just having remixed their songs. You can do the same thing kind of regardless of genre, just breathing new life into a song that people already have shown they liked. And then we just kind of wrap it all up. You've done it. You've promoted the single. You've executed on all the steps. Now you're going to run it back 6 weeks later and realize that these singles kind of build on each other like a staircase, right? Each single helps you level up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But if you go away for too long, then your buzz, your Spotify monthlies, whatever, are going to go down, right? So you just want to be consistently dropping. And it doesn't have to be every 6 weeks. That's probably the best pace. But if you're dropping every 3 months, you're fine. If you're dropping every 6 months, then you're starting to get a little touchy, but still might work out. You just have to have new things to get people talking. Like, almost nothing else you can do is going to have as much power as releasing a single. Certainly nothing else you can really control, right? You can't control if you're going to get a big tour or something. That's not really going to get the buzz going in the same way. A music video for an old song might help, but again, not as exciting as a new single. This is what you can control. This is what you build around. This is what builds the hype slowly over time by being consistent with it. And by spacing them out every 6 weeks or whatever, you're giving yourself more time to write more quality music, which is really important. And if you're releasing too often, it looks like you're throwing spaghetti at a wall. People are like, oh, this person isn't taking it seriously. These are probably all demos, and odds are you probably don't have like enough great songs to consistently release an amazing song a week for a year. That's just kind of how it works. And if you do, God bless you. You are beyond me. But odds are, if you have that many songs recorded, you need to start editing it down a little bit. Just saying. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. These YouTube videos are starting to feel more natural. It's been a really scary learning process for me. But, if you dug what you saw, subscribe for more. DM me on any of the socials or email matt@dropoutmedia.net for private consultation. Thank you so much for watching.